As we reach the end of this first week of Professor Howe's forced birth bill in South Australia, I can't ignore a question that I think will be at the front of everyone's mind right now. When is Professor Howe going to change her clothes? Because it's been like a solid 5 days now of her co-opting media coverage and protesting outside of Parliament and gathering people outside the wrong politicians' offices and, of course, spending plenty of quality time in her car as always. Many of you have probably seen by now in South Australia Ben Hood's forced birth bill that he has introduced and disinformation being pushed by Professor Howe. She provided the basis for Ben Hood's first forced birth bill with her claim that 45 healthy, viable babies were killed. So first, let's get this out of the way because it is pretty flimsy, even for Professor Howe. What she's done to manufacture this number of is add together the total number of terminations to take place after 22 weeks and 6 days on the grounds that continuing the pregnancy would cause a significant risk of injury to the pregnant person. So were there 45 healthy and viable babies involved in these terminations? No. Basically, Professor Howe's just making a really broad assumption that is likely very inaccurate. And I'm sure none of you need a reminder that Professor Howe has absolutely no qualifications or experience in any healthcare or related field, and she's demonstrated a complete and willful ignorance of what gestational viability actually is. And making that 45 number even more ridiculous and random is that she's intentionally including any and all termination on those grounds that occurred after 22 weeks and 6 days, or when her bill only mentions terminations after 27 weeks and 6 days. Now, Professor Howe will absolutely screech at you that the bill that she has here doesn't change anything about access to termination. But also, unfortunately for Professor Howe, we can just go and read the bill. So right now, South Australian termination law says that a medical practitioner can perform a termination on a person who is more than 22 weeks and 6 days pregnant, provided it's in accordance with Section 6 of South Australia's Termination of Pregnancy Act 2021. Here is that section, and it clearly outlines how a termination after 22 weeks and 6 days must be approved by 2 medical practitioners only on the grounds that it is needed to save the life of the pregnant person or another fetus, if there is a significant risk or a diagnosed significant fetal anomaly, or if there is a significant risk of injury to the health of the pregnant person. Currently, Section 6 also has this section here which says that a medical practitioner can perform a termination on someone who is more than 22 weeks and 6 days pregnant without getting a second medical practitioner's approval because, well, it's an emergency. The changes that Hood's bill makes do absolutely ban terminations for anyone in any circumstance after 27 weeks and 6 days. Here we can see the changes to Section 6, which ban a termination for any person who is more than 27 weeks and 6 days pregnant, regardless of if a termination is medically needed to save their life or that of another fetus, or if there is a significant risk of injury to the pregnant person's health or a significant fetal anomaly. Instead, if a pregnant person is going to die, their health is at significant risk, or their fetus has been diagnosed with a condition that makes them incompatible with life, if they are 28 weeks or more pregnant, the medical practitioner is only allowed to deliver a live fetus by inducing birth. If that sounds messed up to you, it's because it is. And I think the cherry on top of this steaming pile of absolutely delulu Christian fascist garbage is that if there were an emergency where a medical practitioner would currently be able to perform a termination that was needed to save a pregnant person's life, Hood and Howe's bill changes that. So in an emergency, a medical practitioner cannot perform a termination to save somebody's life if that person is 28 weeks or more pregnant. While we're on the subject of Christian fascism, I'm just going to say that there is absolutely no chance that this bill will pass and become law in South Australia. This bill was purely designed by them to impress the leader of the Christo-fascist uprising within the Liberal Party of South Australia, Senator Adelaide. You see, Ben Hood really wants to score some pre-selection points, especially since he's never actually been successfully elected in South Australia. He was just appointed to fill a vacancy. And Professor Howe, while she probably wants to run for the Family First Party or get a Sky News spot once she's eventually fired by the university, I think her short-term goal is also to impress Senator Adelaide because she filmed an episode of his YouTube show months and months ago, and he still hasn't posted it. The words Christian and fascism, they sound so fun together, don't they? But it is a issue in Australia, like it is in America, and we have a series of people to thank, all seem to centre around the Australian Christian lobby. But I think I'll leave all of that for another time. Yay!